welcome to Idiot Dadz.
Welcome.
I'm Miguel.
I'm Austin.
And we're here today. Before we start, I'd like to give special thanks to Casey Cook, who was our guest speaker last week and did a really good job.
Super awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah. And also I'd like to thank Brad Kelsey for letting us use the song Blues Daddy from his CD Just a Step Away. That's our intro and our closer. You can go to CD Baby, and he's also going to be reworking his YouTube channel so that we have better quality on his music, I think is what he said he was going to try and do. So
cool.
We're here today to talk about. I think also you have a question that you wanted to ask for this week.
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on discipline.
Discipline.
A parent's role in disciplining their child. Should we grab the belt or send them in the corner, or do we just ignore their bad habits and let them feel like they did a bad thing?
Oh, you're a bad boy. No. So before we start this, I would like to say that this is completely non-expert advice. Do not take anything that we say here. This is
unless it works for you.
Unless it works for you.
You can do whatever you want with it. We're not experts.
We're not experts. The show is called Idiot Dadz for a reason. So if you don't like what we have to say or you don't agree with it, that's perfectly fine. We're not here to push one way or the other. We're just going to give our own personal experiences with it. So on that note, that this episode's going to be probably a little bit more on the serious side because of it. But it's going to be an honest conversation. So, I feel like this is something that I wish that, somebody had really talked to me about when I was first becoming a dad. Because it's not something when you're going through the whole parenting thing and you talk about discipline and blah blah blah. Everyone's like, I'd spank my kids, or no, never touch your kid. That'll cause.
I think the problem with the belt is back in the day, it was a very fine leather belt that your dad whooped you with. But in this day and age, everything is studded. So can you imagine getting whooped on with a metal studded belt from your punk dad? Oh
yeah, your emo dad with the chain on the chain in the pocket and everything. No. Well, and so that brings us to, like, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So
it depends on the kid, too.
It depends on the kid. I mean, geez, there's you can't say that one set of discipline works for all children because my daughter is way different than her cousins who are very close to her, but the way that each one of them, I have 2 nephews and a niece, and each one of them, my sister, disciplines differently because they respond. It's not cookie cutter. You can't discipline all kids the same.
My wife, Danny, she said that growing up, like, spankings and stuff never worked on her, but as soon as her parents were like, well, you don't get any dessert, or no candy for you, like, she would just bawl and she'd be, I'll be good.
She'd flip out.
Like, that was her discipline. You told her she couldn't have sweets.
Well, and
that's what I do to her now. Like, if you don't
stop
acting up, you're not going to get any dessert tonight.
No pie. No. Well, and see, this is that's the problem. So when I first became a parent, I had this idea. It's like, this is the kind of dad I'm going to be, and I'm going to act this way, and I'm not going to let my kid. Because I never wanted, like, a spoiled child. I didn't want, my kid to be like, sorry. I didn't want my kid to be, a spoiled little girl and she get everything. I'd seen parents that do that and it just, it infuriates me. So I was like,
it's a millennial thing we can always talk about in another episode.
Yeah. But, I think just certain parents, I mean, I think that's true throughout all ages, that there's certain parents let their kids get away with murder and then certain parents don't. And, I didn't want to be the one that, like, raised a spoiled child. So when I first got, when I first became a parent, I was like, I'm going to be strict. I'm going to be disciplined. And it doesn't really matter when the baby's first born. Like, it's not going to be, like, an issue until, like, age 2 when they're talking and moving around on their own. Yeah, when they start telling you no and stuff. But see, like, so the thing that this is a rule of thumb that I found for guys. Women are a different subject, but for guys, this is the rule of thumb. If you're a young dad, I don't care what you are personality wise or whatever. I think if you are a young dad, I'm not a very aggressive person. I don't ooze testosterone or anything like that. But I did find that I was getting very like short tempered, and I kind of alluded that a little bit to the first episode when we're talking about holding, like just being so frustrated with this infant, and it's like it's an infant. Duh. You know, they don't have any control, but you just get so angry and you get so upset. And I think it's more of a frustration of not control. For the first time in your life, you have to take care of something else. You have to deal with its needs over your own needs, and it becomes frustrating. It's dragging, you know, it really drags you down. And now they can talk back to you. So now you've added movement and talking back to you, and they're going to go, and then they're going to try and push those buttons. I think children generally have this strong urge to be disciplined. They want structure. It doesn't hurt them to tell them no. Yeah, they might cry about it or whatever, but in the end, I think they appreciate it. But when you're younger and you're going through all that, your general first reaction might be sort of like a physical thing, which is spanking or, yelling or whatever. And I had this problem when Adina was younger. I did this a lot. I yelled at her a lot. I would spank her on a drop of a hat. And then my sister kind of had to pull me aside and be like, hey, don't ever spank your kid when you're upset. And I'm going to never, ever hit a child when you're angry. If your child has made you mad, you step away. And even if they're being a brat or being a jerk or whatever, step away for a second, calm yourself, get yourself, and then go back. And then you can commence a spanking or whatever you want. Because
commence the spankings.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you
the
get
spanking should now commence.
Yeah, spanking arms ready. But once you get that anger,
danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Once you get that initial edge, that initial rush of adrenaline that get out of your system, this is going to be something that you're probably going to have to deal with, especially for boys. I see this more like with my niece, my nephews and stuff. I've had this more of an issue than with my own daughter, but even with my own daughter, I've had to step away because the moment you start hitting your kid when you're upset, you're not spanking them for discipline. You're spanking them out of anger. Mm-hmm. And when you're angry, you're going to hit as if you're angry. Even if you're holding back, it's still going to, and I've hit Dina sometimes and I've regretted it, but I've hit her hard sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that was too hard. And
you spanked her. You didn't hit her.
Well, and at that point, I would almost consider it hitting because spanking to me is disciplinary because you love and you do that. When you hit somebody, even if it's a light hit, it's still a hit. You're doing it because you're frustrated and you're upset. That's where I'm talking about. And it's not something that a lot of people like to talk about. It's not something that a lot of people like to admit. But I feel like, especially if you're younger and a guy, that's an issue that every person should have had that conversation. And that's what I'm hoping for this episode. It's not, and I know it won't be as the funniest episode, but I think it's something that every guy should really consider when they're dealing with disciplinary actions. You need to understand that you can hit, and that is not good when you do, because you're younger, like I said, your testosterone's up there. It doesn't take very much to get you set off, and that's all it takes. And it's a small child. So, you don't want to be that guy that ends up on the news because they hurt his child. And you don't want your child to remember, oh, my dad hurt me. So
you want to bruise their pride, not their skin.
Well, like I said, I think children want that discipline. They want it because they need to know that there's boundaries. And I'm not against physical teaching. I know some people can say, oh, well, you shouldn't teach your child to be violent. You shouldn't teach your child to be aggressive. But I don't think that's true. Because even if you look at look at animals in the wild. And a good example I can see of this is look at lions. Lions, big, muscular animals. Even the cubs can come up to the father lion, and the father lion will play with them, knock them around, beat them up, but never hurts them. And this is a lion. This is a lion that will kill almost anything in a drop of a hat. But it won't kill a cub, its own cubs, for that matter. But we'll play with them, and we'll even pretend to get hurt by the cubs. And I think that's something that everyone should realize when they're doing, when you're raising a child. So my dad would always wrestle with me. We would always do that. I don't know. Like, did you kind of have that relationship with your dad?
WrestleMania in our house.
Yeah. So, and I had a lot of friends. A lot of my friends were older. So, they were always like 4 or 5 years older than me. And I felt like it was, granted, it was embarrassing. I had cousins who would beat the crap out of me in front of everybody. And, my pride was hurt and I was upset. But looking back at it now, it taught me a lot. It taught me like respect of my family and my friends. And it also taught me where the boundaries were. And I see people who didn't have that. Everyone knows those guys that they don't really know where the line is, and then they get hurt and they get all emotional but I feel like those guys didn't get enough of that. Like they didn't get, and sometimes, granted, there might be other issues, but I think in general, I think it's good for guys to do that with each other so that they learn their own boundaries. You learn your own strengths. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
No, I fully agree with what you're saying. I'm sure our kid is going to be so perfect that we're never going to have to discipline him.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's got my genes and Danielle's, so it's going to be quiet.
He'll come out with a robe and...
It's so hot in there.
He's just like, oh, hello, Father. How are you doing?
Did you read the papers today? Yes, the Dow's up 2%. You should really invest.
Do you have any idea how that would be your kid? I have this image of your kid like just being completely quiet and somber and very mature, and then you're trying to play with him. And he's like, "No, Father, I've got to look at the Dow reports.
We don't dally on such things.
We don't tittle tattle."
Excuse me, Father. I must use the powder room and relieve myself. Please excuse me from dinner. I
have a souffle in the oven. I must go attend to it. Will you be joining us?
Son, what are you doing with my scotch? Please, Father.
It's been a long day. Preschool was hard. I only got one cookie today.
This one cookie was hard.
I need to just take back and relax for a little bit.
Oh man, for that moment that we do have to discipline our kid, I don't know. My dad he never hit me with anything other than his hand, which was enough, but my mom was weaker in that aspect, so she hit us with a wooden spoon.
Okay, so yeah, I remember when my mom would
But I deserved it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, do you remember the last time you were ever disciplined? When was that moment where your parents realized...
Disciplined or when I was spanked?
We'll say spanked. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember the last time you were spanked?
Yes.
Because...
I was 12 years old, and I lit the couch on fire. My parents...
Wait, okay. No, we gotta talk about this.
Well, yeah.
You said you lit the couch on fire. No. There's two types of fire, there's like, you for some reason lit a small fire and there's some embers on it, or you poured gasoline and lit it ablaze.
Okay, well... Let me tell you the story.
Where's the spectrum of setting the couch on fire?
My parents had left. They went and took my cousin who was staying with us. She had to go get something. So they went out with her to go do it. I was left at home. I had fireworks. And they were left over.
You're 12?
Yeah, my parents had bought a bunch. Because they were on sale after 4th of July, they had a bunch. And so I grabbed one, and there was like a firecracker, and I thought, I really wanted to like see what this thing looked like. There's like 6 in a box. So I just decided, I'm going to light it, and then I'm going to put it underneath the faucet and let it, I just want to see what it looks like. And so instead of going outside and doing this, I wasn't allowed to do it. That's why I wasn't allowed to do it by myself. And I had recently just got in trouble for lighting the curtains on fire.
All right, now let's refer.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a fire bug in me. My parents had gotten those, when they had, you had matches, but then they got those little like kerosene flint things, or you press the two buttons and they got. So my parents had bought a bunch of those, so I was like into a firebug stage, and so I grabbed one of the fireworks out and I was like, all right, I'm gonna or firecracker out. And
how far back we're gonna keep going?
No, this is it. This is the story. So I
lit
it.
Curtains, then it was the cat.
Yeah. So I lit this thing up. And I was like, oh, it's green. Cool. So I ran over to the sink and I tried to put it in the sink, but it didn't stop. Even with the water running. So, and it was probably because I was panicking, because I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. So I threw it. I threw it across the room. It went underneath the couch, and then, it started doing its thing. So I had to go and ran quickly, and there's smoke coming out from the couch. I mean, it was real fast. I grabbed it with my bare hand, and then I threw it outside.
You threw it on the curtains.
Well, no, the curtains was another thing. I was just lighting stuff on fire. I didn't realize it would do that. So I threw this thing outside, and my neighbor is sitting out there, and he's watching this firework go off.
Honey, the neighbor's kid just threw a fireball out the window.
Well, and I burned my hand, and so my hand was burnt, and I was just like freaking out. So I wrapped my hand up. I think I grabbed like a dirty sock or whatever and just like tied my hand up. And then I go and check underneath the couch, and I'm like trying to take out the embers and stuff before it burns. So the bottom of the couch had burned, and then there's a big burn mark on the floor because we had wood floors. We didn't have carpet or anything. So it burned into the wood. It's like this burn mark. And I'm so fortunate that the couch actually didn't just completely light up, because it was underneath there long enough that if it probably would have been another second or so, the whole couch would have been on fire and I probably would have lost my house.
Oh, God.
So I was just freaking out. And so I ran to my room and I hid down there for about an hour before my parents came. And then I could hear my neighbor, who was real close to my dad, tell me what he saw.
Sifu Hot Man over there just threw a fireball out the window.
And so my dad is like, comes down there, and he's like, he sees the burn mark on the couch, he sees everything, and I'm in tears, bawling. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, I can't let this go anymore. And so, he got the belt off, and then, like, in front of everybody, like my mom and my cousin and everybody is like, my mom's yelling at me, and my cousin's just sitting there, and she's like feeling bad for me, and my dad's like feeling bad, and then, he puts me over the couch, and I get spanked, and then I go to my room.
Wait, was it the same couch you lit on fire?
No, I had a couch down in my room. So after that, I think I never got spanked again. Because I never wanted to do that. So, but I remember it very vividly. I remember the whole experience of the last time I got spanked, and that
I think you deserved
it burns.
That.
Yeah, I think I deserved it too, and I never messed with fire again after that. How about you? Do you remember the last time you got spanked?
Yes. It's not as epic. It's certainly not as epic. I remember my mom and I and my sisters were driving somewhere, and I must have been just a punk kid. I guessed I was probably around somewhere between 13 to 16. I couldn't honestly remember how old I was, but my mom said something or was irritating me, and I was just like, I was just giving her some back sass.
You were doing the back sass part.
Oh, yeah. Like, to the max. And she turns around with the wooden spoon and just... I don't know why we must have all been acting up for her to have already the wooden spoon in her hand. And she just smacked me a good one, I think on my leg. And I turned to her and I just went...
Oh, it worse.
No, it was so funny because it was at that moment my mom and I realized I'm too old to be spanked.
Oh.
And she started laughing because I could not help myself. I was just like, had this look like, seriously, you just spanked me?
So
I'm like 16 or whatever, and she started cracking up, and then I cracked up, and that was the last time I ever been spanked.
So your last spanking
was
due
for
to
discipline.
Ooh, oh God. So your last discipline was because it no longer worked on you. Mine was because that was all it needed, and I was done after that point. Yes. Yeah, I did find that like getting hit by my mom hurt more. But getting hit by my dad was, like, the worst. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't hit me, or, I'm sorry, there's a big difference. He didn't spank me, to hurt me or anything, but it just felt worse. It felt like I let down the family name. I've dishonored us all, and I am the shame of the family.
You have to fall on the sword now.
Yeah, it's like you've been disowned if dad has to spank you, and mom spanks you. It's just because mom is mom, and whatever.
I think there's some forms of discipline that work well too. Like if the mom's watching a kid all day, and the father has a little bit or some sort of like disciplinarian role in the kid's life to like tell the kid at like say 11 o'clock in the morning, if you know what, I'm sick of your attitude, kid, and when your dad comes home I'm going to tell him what you did.
My mom
and
would
then
do
like
that,
the whole day like, oh my god, what time is it?
Is it almost time for dad to be home?
And then like as it's like it's like the dread of it being time for the dad to come home. I think that's a good form of discipline too.
Well, see, and when it comes to Adina now that I'm the only one really doing the disciplining, because my parents really, we live with my parents, and they take care of her a lot. I almost have to pry information out of them because they don't want her to get in trouble. Like my dad won't ever, like, he lets that girl run all over him. My mom, to a certain point, will let her, and then like if she gets too bad. But for the most part, I'm the one that like has to step in. I'll see her talking to Grandpa badly, and I'll be like, "You can't talk to Grandpa that way." And then I'll stop the playing. I'm like, "No, you can't play with Grandpa anymore. Go to your room or whatever." And then that works way more than spanking does, because at this point, my daughter's immune to it. My daughter's been immune to spanking for years. In fact, to the point where she'll shake her butt in front of me because she would. That's how non-afraid of spanking she is. So, yeah, we just I stopped the spanking a while ago.
So you're saying there's a level of spankings until spankings isn't as.
Yeah, and I think it was because I used it frequently when she was younger, and I try. After my sister had that conversation with me, I tried to really lessen the what spanking actually is, and then it became more of just fun. Like I never tried to hit her to hurt her or cause any problems. If she, there was a few times where she just needed to calm down, and there was just nothing I could do. I needed to shock her into it, but it was never meant to like hurt her. It was just like, hey, you need to focus.
Listen up here.
Yeah, you need to get yourself together here. But those are extreme cases. Those are like on the floor in the grocery store throwing a temper tantrum, which if you met Adina, she doesn't do that very often, if ever. She just kind of like every now and then she just needs like a little jolt back into reality.
So what else do you do now? What do you do after a kid is pretty much done with the spanking aspect of discipline? In
all honesty, I find the best part is just reasoning with them. So
come on, son, let me sit down and tell you.
Well, see, okay, so here's a great example. Dina's only ever bad right after school. And I never understood why at first until I think my mom had told me. She was like, well, think about it. She's sitting at school all day, being good. And she's very good at school. No problems at school. But she has to be, sit tight, has to listen, has to pay attention. And so for 6 hours a day, she has to do that. That's a lot for a kid. And to like do her homework and focus. And then she gets here with you. This is her safe place. She needs a chance to like relax and get out. But sometimes we have to do grocery shopping or something like that. And she's just not in that mood for it. She's just not, prepared to do it. Yeah. And so she's just got to let that energy out. And she's got to let all that pent up emotion out that she's been holding in all day. And so a lot of times what we'll do is when we're in the car, if she's acting this way, I just talk it out with her. And it's amazing. It's really like, so she's only 7, but we've been doing this since she was 5. And sometimes I just talk to her and I just let her talk. And then, yeah, she's upset and she's crying. It's like, this person was like this to me and they did this and you're being mean for this. And then I just reason with her. It's like, no, Dad's not trying to hurt your feelings. I know you want to go to Taco Bell, but I made us dinner. Well, I don't want salmon. Well, Dad spent a lot of money on the salmon. We got to eat it. And you want, you don't want me to waste money. I work really hard. And then just by having this conversation, she comes around. And I think it's just, kids get emotional. Kids get bent up. They get, when we're teenagers, I'm sure you can remember those times where you felt like the world was going to end.
Oh, yeah.
And
still do.
You look back on it now and you're like, well, it was like, that was nothing. That was, I remember one time I almost had a mental breakdown because I got a D in a class and then turned out for a completely different reason, was one of my greatest accomplishments. That D was actually a source of pride for me later on. So it's like these things that we think are going to be these big things don't. And so you got to remember for her, or for future Quill here, he's going to go to school and these little things might upset him. But you just need to talk it out with him. And then they realize, oh, you know what? It's not that big a deal. Never mind.
Yeah. Sometimes
they don't want to tell you because they feel ashamed about something. And so they act up because they know they did something wrong. I know my daughter, a real bad one with her was she got on we have a color system. I think purple is like the worst color. She got on that one time, and it was right after the whole thing with me and her mom happened. And I told her, okay, well, you get one. And it blew her mind. She thought she was like in serious trouble. And I was like, no, you get one. I'll let you have this one. But tomorrow we got to do better. So you have to get on. I told her green's like the basis. Like you have to be on green tomorrow. But I'm going to forget this one because of everything that's going on and all the upheaval you're having. You're allowed to have one. And, granted, most parents would probably be a little bit more lenient on that, but for my daughter, that was a big deal. And
yeah, it's a tough time. There's a point where you have to reach a balance where just because the cart has stopped in the family, so to speak, doesn't mean you have to keep the ball rolling with the kid. I mean, if you let them start getting away with stuff, they'll want to seek your attention in worse ways. So
yeah.
I think that's a really wise way to put it is like, well, you're going through this, you gotta still learn you can't do these things.
Yeah.
And when something sad or bad happens to you, you can't just act. You can't just react to it and negatively.
And I've seen people do that, and I always see it like not working well with the kid because it's like, oh, well, because he's having a hard time for this, you're letting him get away with everything else. And it's like, well, you can't. And it's hard. None of this is supposed to be easy. Disciplining your child is not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to be happy when you spank your child. You're not supposed to get and I guess that kind of goes back to my whole, like, when you're angry. It shouldn't be a part of, like, relieving something to discipline your child. It should hurt you. It's that old saying, like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. That has to be true. It has to be, because you're not disciplining your kid because you're angry at them. You're disciplining your kid because you want to teach them. And that's the thing that a lot of people forget. You're trying to teach the child. And you can do damage both ways. By not disciplining your child, you do way more damage than you do disciplining your child. But then if you discipline too much, you could scar your child or make them believe. My dad, was, pretty distant with me, but, he was pretty good at teaching me at least generally how to act and how to be around and general public. So these little things helped out. He would nudge me, or his favorite move. Another cool move you can do with the kid. I do it with the Dina a lot too. It doesn't hurt the child or anything, but if you grab them on the leg and you just put a little bit of pressure right above their knee, there's like that nerve right there. Once again, I'm not telling you to do some sort of martial arts on your child, but you just squeeze it just a little bit and it causes just that nerve to flare up, kind of like when you get hit on the knee and it causes your leg to jolt a little bit, and you do that and it's like, hey, it's a nudge, all right, without yelling at you in front of all these people, calm down. Or, grab them on the back of the neck and just pinching the two nerves on either side. Once again, not trying to hurt your child, but just like, all right, you just need to sit still for 5 more minutes and then you can go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that's just how you're going to find it. I mean, every parent, has the right to choose how they discipline their child, and not every one way is always going to work. I know my younger nephew, Miguel. How
many Miguels are in your family?
6 total. But the junior, he'll like
junior.
Yeah.
Wait, junior 2 or junior 1?
He's junior 2. I'm junior 3. How that works? That's a whole other.
You're being serious.
Yeah, I'm not joking. But junior 2 will sometimes like just go ballistic, and he's got like a closet that he like has to go into, and my sister doesn't lock him in there. He just goes in there. That's like his like safe space. So he just goes in there, but he has to like calm down because he just goes ballistics and hits stuff. His older brother, who's way bigger than him, gets afraid of him when he does that. And his older brother is like dainty. Like he doesn't he doesn't like have a violent bone in his body. I don't know if he got into a fight he would know what to do.
Yeah, I think like Casey was saying last episode was every kid's different. Maybe there's some, you might have a kid where you barely have to discipline him. Just a little bit of nudge is enough to shock him into acting straight, you know?
And there's always, you can do like the dessert thing. You can do the timeouts. Like timeout works really well. My mom does that on Adina when she goes really bad. She hasn't done it in a long time, but when we first moved back in with them, she had to do it a few times. I make Adina do chores, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the bathroom. Like, all right, if you want to, twofer. You got to do this because like today even she spilled soda all across the living room, and she had to go spend the night at her other grandma's house. And I told her to clean it up before we left. I had to go to work that night. I came back home this morning and it never got cleaned.
Period?
No, it was just sitting there. And I was like, okay. Now, granted, this happened late at night, so nobody had seen it. So I left it there. And when she got off of school, I made her clean it up and told her she wasn't allowed to play with anybody or do anything until it got clean. And she did a good job. She got the Windex out. She did that. But, I didn't feel like it should be like a full-on grounding. But I felt like, well, it's got to be addressed.
Yeah, pick and choose your battles.
Yeah. Not everything needs to be a life and death situation, but not everything needs to be... Don't just let things fly. Because it's so easy. I see so many people do that with like, it's just easier if I do it than trying to make my kid do it. It's just easier. And it's like, yeah, you have to sit over your kid and watch them clean. But guess what? They're never going to learn how to clean unless you make them. They're never going to learn how to take care of themselves unless you make them,
Yeah, that's true.
And I know, women have this thing too. And I just don't think, I don't think people talk about it very often. So, it's just like, you do need to talk about this stuff. You do need to make this vocalized. Your parents had to deal with it. Everybody deals with it. Yeah.
My parents, I think this is interesting on our dynamics of doing this podcast is because even though Danielle and I aren't divorced, like you and your ex-wife are, I come from a divorced family, which you don't. So it's almost a weird perspective that I still... seeing where you're coming from with you and Adina, because I was there. I was Adina. I was
almost like reverse. You're like what Adina will be.
Yeah,
and
I know like what you're talking about a lot of times too. I think I was in, how old would I have been? 7? I was in first grade when my parents were divorced.
Oh, see, so yeah, you're about the same age.
Yeah, both my parents had different disciplinary tactics. My mom was more of a, I don't know what you'd call it. She wanted to be more of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
She's really big on... And in a lot of ways, it's weird because, she was kind of the extreme that way, where I could get away with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much not get in trouble. But I would open up to my mom more than I ever would with my dad, too. She was, a good friend. I could, talk to her and console her. Where my dad was a little extreme the other way. He was very strict. You do this, do that. You don't ask why, you just do it, and sometimes I resented it, and I rebelled quite a bit when I got older, but I didn't console my dad ever for a while until I left the house, and so there's just somewhere in between that parents strive for, is learning how you can be open with your child and to console in them and vice versa, but at the same time learning how to still be a disciplinarian, being a father figure. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be just a friend.
Yeah. And I've actually had that conversation with Adina more than once. I'm like, look, I'm not your friend. Sorry. We're not friends. I'm your dad. But we do have like these long conversations, and we do, I gotta be both. So I gotta be, like, for me, it was like my mom was, sort of, if I needed, like, sort of like a wisdom advice. Like, my mom was like the wisest person I've ever known. And so, like, even to this day, she'll still point things out that I, don't see. And so I still go to her for advice, and I still go to her for things. My dad, on the other hand, it wasn't until much later that I started getting that for him. Because basically for the first, 16 years of my life, my dad's only advice was, you're not eating right, you're not working out enough, or you're not working enough. Those only, everything that ever happened. I remember my first girlfriend I ever broke up with somehow it was because I wasn't eating right. I need to eat more bananas or something like that. And I was just like, okay, I'm distraught and crying and bawling. And I was like, all right, I guess that's all right. And he's like, why don't you go to work with me? And I was like, I really don't want to go to work right now. But he was right. And he was absolutely right. But it's just so funny, just because my dad's English is horrible and my Spanish is worse. So, so it's like I learned to deal with certain emotional aspects by just working with him and doing stuff like that, and never saying a word. So when that, and sometimes when I would do something really bad, it was a couple times I did something really bad that he made me go to work with him, and it was just the dead silence that killed me. I was just like, and he wouldn't talk about it. He wouldn't say anything, and I was like, I got the lesson just by sitting there for 3 hours straight, putting carpet down. That I really fudged up. I really messed up because dad's not saying a word to me, and I'm just sitting here.
Silence is the best discipline.
Yeah. So sometimes that works. I don't know if that's the best outcome, but I feel like, but they never left me alone. It wasn't they never I think that's the worst thing you can do, to well, I'm not going to deal with it. No, you got to deal with it. You can deal with it a million ways, but you have to deal with whatever. Even if your kid does something small, I don't like it if my daughter talks back to older people. I don't like it if my daughter kind of has an attitude with certain people about certain stuff. Even if somebody else does something to her, I'm like, hey, be respectful. If that kid doesn't want to play with you, that's fine. You can go do something else. But also make sure you're definitely talking to her, because that's also where you can lead to that whole, well, my dad says I have to listen to anything an adult says, and then this adult does something that they're not supposed to, and I have to be okay with it. No, that's bad. Yeah. I was like, what's good and bad. You got to talk to me about it. Because there's a lot of creepos in this world that'll do a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
So what's Danny's outlook on this? Have you guys talked about this at all together?
Yeah, she's actually more pro spanking and discipline. I do want to strive to be a disciplinary figure in my child's life, but in some aspects, I think Danielle will shine through naturally for that aspect.
I think because Danny's planning on being a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, when they're stay-at-home mom, they have more hands-on, more time, and they'll have to be that way. And then that's when it comes out, oh, wait till your dad gets home. And then that's when that situation kind of comes up.
It's just kind of personality, too. Danielle is a very disciplined person as well. You do things right. You do them right the first time. And if you're acting up, you get a whooping, or you get time out. She's, that's...
You're going to get a whooping, boy. Wait till your dad gets home. We got the shed in the back.
What? A shed?
Yeah. You never heard that? The woodshed out in the back?
Gonna tie your kid to the woodshed?
No, you take the kid to the back of the woodshed and your daddy gives you a whooping. You're going to be whooped so hard.
My favorite's when you hear the stories of kids had to go they go to the willow tree out in the back and pick out their own switch that would be used to spank them with.
I had an uncle one time actually chain my two cousins who they were way bigger than me, and the one just didn't feel pain, and he was taking care of him, and so no matter what they did, he just could not be stopped. It was like he gets in those moods, but he was so big. He was 6 foot at 14.
Oh,
And everybody else, little small Mexican family, they couldn't handle it. So he one time, I think, chained him up with my other cousin who got into a big fight. And so what they did was, my other cousin, made him laugh so hard until he peed his pants. But then that backfired on him because then he was stuck with him in a hot garage as he peed his pants, and he had to stay there for another 2 hours. And it was just like,
oh my God.
Oh, I didn't think this through. So the punishment went double for him.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I like to think of myself like I can be somebody that's like, all right, you're acting up. But some ways I think I'm a little bit more too relaxed at times, a little too reasonable in the sense of I would just want to reason when sometimes you have to just react. And so it's going to be interesting to see the dynamics between Danielle and I when we have our child and they get to an age where they need disciplined.
And in that sense, that kind of is what I was talking about earlier. I mean, it's just, you're going to be amazed. It's just weird. You would think that, I always thought, I'm not the aggressor. I'm not very, I don't, like I said, I don't react very much to things, but man, those kids know how to get under your skin. They know the right words every time to just whoa. And so, you'll be amazed. They can cut deep sometimes, but, you'll get the hang of it. But you just got to give yourself that chance. You got to remember too, that it is a learning curve for both of you guys, especially if your first child. Second child comes in, you become an expert. You've already been through most of it. Granted, there might be a little difference, variations here, but once you've been through it. But first time parents, it's so easy to be the good parent in front of everyone. It's when you're by yourself that's the hard time to be the parent, because you've got no one. You don't have anyone to look at you. It's is this the right thing to do? I don't know. I'm going to figure this out as we're going,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I did that a lot with Adina, trying to figure out, especially when it was just me and her. I was so I don't know if this is right, but we're going to try this and see if it works. And I hope I don't scar you forever. It was many nights where me and her spent staying up all night and then her having to go to school the next day. But those were good moments for us, though, but it was kind of a learning curve. Maybe I shouldn't have let her do that, or maybe I shouldn't have let her watch this movie because she's only 6 years old. Maybe she doesn't like zombies, or maybe even though she says she does, maybe she shouldn't be watching, Alien versus Predator, which I probably shouldn't be watching either. So maybe these are all just bad decisions in life, and maybe I need to switch some things up. But then you change and you get it right eventually. Yeah. Just don't let your kid watch too much YouTube. YouTube has a very dark turn. Don't
let it autoplay, for the love of God.
Yes,
do not let your YouTube autoplay.
We've learned this lesson that YouTube takes a dark turn around autoplay number 6. It starts getting into some really weird stuff. No matter where you go, there's a dark side to YouTube.
So that's some real advice for parents. If your kid's watching YouTube, make sure it's not on autoplay.
Yeah.
Because Kermit the Frog can turn really
Kermit the Frog turns real quick. Well, that's all we've got here for today. Thank you guys again for listening. My name's
all 10 of you.
All 10. Hey, Asai, how's it going?
All right, Adina, quit pressing play over and over again. That's time to do your
homework. Please like and subscribe to the video. We really would love comments for future topics of the show.
I think the next topic we should definitely ask people for their advice or their questions on it.
You can give us advice now. You can email me at idiotdads9363@gmail.com.
Or tweet us. Twitter.
Yeah, you can.
Twitter.
Idiot Dads, and that's with a Z on both.
Twerk us.
Or just leave a comment in the video and we'll try to get to it. But yeah, we would love to hear from you guys.
Do we have a subject for next time?
I'm kind of leaving it up to freeform. We're going to be doing the show bi-weekly now. So if you can get to us before that, if not, we have, I think I have a I have a couple ideas for the next episode. But yeah, definitely your guys' take precedence over our own. And I also once again want to thank Brad Kelsey for the use of his song, Blues Daddy. You can get him at CD Baby. It's Brad Kelsey. Just a Step Away is the name of the album. We have
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, we do have a new show. Storiums is a game that we play, and we're currently trying to make a radio drama out of that. It's called Beyond the Valley.
The title is Beyond the Water's Reflection, but the podcast title is Your Turn.
Your Turn, yes. And that's up now.
It's on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube.
And we are all under one sigil now, Amcast. That's capital A-M Cast. And you'll find that video under that. So if you type in Amcast and you look just Your Turn, you should be able to find that video. And we have the introduction on there and everything. We'll be having a couple more shows coming up here soon. Hopefully me and Austin will have another one called Pop Hurts here in a couple of weeks. And
I'm thinking Pop-Tarts. I think we can get away with it, with the Z at the end.
Yeah,
it's a bit of controversy right now.
Yeah, there's Miguel got is killing it with the Z's at the end. Apparently.
I honestly think we should just start doing it until we get in trouble. And then we'll just be like, "Oops, sorry,"
and then we have to change the name of the show. And hopefully, we'll put in some real videos here coming soon. We're just we've got a lot going on here. We're really enjoying doing this, and just. Enjoy making this stuff, enjoy having our little conversations and having fun. So hopefully you guys do too. Please, once again, go visit our friend Casey Cook on Carguments and his wife Katie Cozy, who made my daughter an amazing fox hat that she absolutely adores, and I love it too. So thank you guys very much, and keep it breezy, folks. Whoa! Please don't do that.
Miguel and
I already did that. I was letting you do your thing.
Let's restart. No, let's say we're starting.
Okay. So this is my name's Miguel. Keep it breezy, folks.
Austin. Okay, one more time.
One more time. This is all staying on, right? We're not cutting any of this, right?
Sorry, one more time.
All right, how about this? Why don't you start and then I'll finish.
No, because all the other episodes, it's Miguel.
Keep it breezy, folks.